Oh, hello there. Yes, well, that happened, didn't it? And then it happened again. Looks like a pattern. Yes, nefarious forces are always at play. Yes. Anyway, there was a lot of that on display yesterday in the British media because, of course, rather than talking about actual things, real things, real material things, it's so much easier just to talk about, well, nothing, as perhaps the Americans might say about the price of eggs. Never get anything about the price of eggs, but we do get plenty of things about how groups of people, specifically in the British media, feel that their lives aren't perfect enough, and as such see conspiracies, well, pretty much everywhere. And certainly one was thinking of that if one had the misfortune to catch Dougie Murray on the Camilla Toomey show. Yes, once again going into the Lamb's Den to plug his book. Yes, lots of people will tell me what an intellectual giant he is, but, well, he does have an English degree, so as such I feel that I'm slightly more qualified to talk about things than he is. Sorry, it's just the way it is, and he does peddle a very, very, very nasty form of racism and give it a lot of cover, whilst not talking about the price of eggs. Naturally, of course, and speaking of very similar subjects, we inevitably end up with Ms. Hampstead Waitrose herself, Zoe Strimple, who had decided not to go and see a play, which was obviously a huge thing at the weekend. I myself, indeed, decided not to see 3 plays altogether, kind of outbeating her there. But, we had this. Roald Dahl's genteel anti-Semitism is tragically all too alive in Britain today. The most fashionable kind of racism in contemporary society manifests itself through the demonisation of Israel. Yes, because once again she gets that sort of second-hand oppression from somewhere. One of the most privileged members of the media elite, one way or another, and yet she is still the victim. Do love the way that these people will take on all of those kind of PC things about being victims and snowflakes that they are. Anything that therefore makes their lives not particularly perfect is, well, not perfect and needs to be destroyed. But here Zoe does very much lump together anti-Zionism with anti-Israelism. And the two of them are very closely linked, I will admit. But one is hard to, once again, it's that tangible thing about real things, the price of eggs, if you like. One is hard-pressed not to look at pictures of bits of people being pulled out of rubble in Gaza and not feel somewhat, slightly, that Israel might not have a cast-iron case for carrying on. Sorry about that. I realise that I'm slipping into the most egregious anti-Semitism there, but yeah, I think it's an entirely rational stance. And, of course, what Zoe means by an anti-Israeli bias is just anyone like me doing what I did a few seconds ago, which is obviously way too far. And, of course, we can think of lots of other British children's authors who do very much the same thing and are very, very much not touched by the British media because, after all of these things do definitely serve a purpose, primarily around not mentioning the price of eggs. Naturally. The Daily Telegraph managed on the similar notion to really dive into an anti-trans story about a perfectly reasonable human being. Here we go. Mother banned from playground after complaining about trans identity lessons. Woman told to stay away after protesting school teachings on protected characteristics. Yes. Now, I'm sure this woman earnestly believes what she does, but getting full-page articles in the Daily Telegraph is going to encourage lots of other people to do the same thing. Imagine if I didn't like a particular thing on the syllabus at my child's school. Granted, my child's 27 now, but it's, I think let's pretend here, okay? Would I be entitled to just make as much of a nuisance as I can, actually physically on school grounds, until basically I had to, well, be threatened with police action? Make up your own mind about that. But of course, the beauty again about this story is that it isn't really about trans issues. It's really about reining people like me in who, have the temerity to actually think about things or potentially suggest to people there might be more than one opinion. But still, nothing about the price of eggs. And the cherry on the cake, the bigot on the stool, or whichever other sort of phrase you want to use, was of course Robert Jenrick, who has managed to really excel himself in not talking about anything at the moment. It's beyond time to end anti-white racism. The colour of one's skin should have no relevance in a job application. Sadly, that's not the case in today's Britain. Yes, indeed. He represents that enormous majority of people in the UK who are simply a racially abused every single day because of the fact that they have white skin. It's astounding that I can manage to have, let me see now, I've been alive for over 60 years and cannot think of a single incidence of racism that has been projected towards me. I've had people being rude to me about a wide variety of different issues. I remember once a guy having a go at me in Leeds because, well, he thought I was Jewish. Yes, indeed, Zoe. But I've never actually had anyone have a go at me because of the colour of my skin, very much like Robert Jenrick hasn't, very much like all of these other people that write these kind of pieces don't either. And yet it's so much easier to imagine a world whereby they are the victims. How convenient. Will things change? I mean, would Robert Jenrick, for example, be after a very, very, very much more sort of meritocratically based laws around employment? And of course, obviously, as a Conservative, he wouldn't be, because then you couldn't employ your mates from school. So he's not going to do that, is he? Is he going to? Are we going to have upgraded systems to make sure that, for example, the people in Oxford actually get there on merit rather than simply the school they went to? Obviously not. Obviously not. Obviously not. Obviously not. And indeed, obviously not. None of these things will happen because somewhere there is a BBC post which is only available to people that aren't white, and as such, he can be the victim. Oh, poor man. Poor man. I mean, just think, yeah? The next time you're walking past one of your homeless Tory MPs in the street, do spare them a thought and chuck them a coin. They are the most oppressed group of people in society. Meanwhile, the rest of us, of course, can just think about all those other things that might actually be important. But, oh, look over there, it's a dog, is the basic message of the British media, because otherwise we would have to talk about real and important things rather than how dangerous trans people are, or how dangerous it is for Zoe to go to her local Waitrose, or how dangerous it is for Robert Jenrick to appear in the hours of daylight. Actually, that latter one I think is actually true, because I think personally he's only just barely in human form. Yes. Anyway, do have a glorious Monday. Another start to the week. Will the days never end? Soon for me, I hope. Hooray! Then I won't have to worry about all that racism, will I?